I always wanted to play. I didn't want to coach, but I also have a heart disease, and long story short, had to have 3 open heart surgeries, had a pacemaker implanted, and wasn't ever cleared to play basketball in college. But God put 2 coaches in my life who really showed me how I could lead and how I could impact people through coaching. And I think that's when that fire and that passion really started to burn in my heart that, hey, this is what I want to do, and I feel like this is what God has called me to do. And it's more than basketball. Like, you're more than putting a round ball in a basket. You're more than scoring 20 points a game. You're more than winning this game. Love, serve, compete. Those things resonate with, that unselfishness, that humility, and just being the ultimate teammate.
It didn't surprise me at all that you had come up with a strategy, a discipline to keep doing what you need to do, to win, to lead. So talk to me a little bit about Win 1-1.
If we do this and we win every play, every possession, and we do it one at a time together, we're going to win this game. Like, we'll have won at the end of the day.
Hello, and welcome to Keep Shining with Stuart MacMillan. I would be Stuart MacMillan if you don't know, and I am happy today, delighted, in fact, to have a very special guest to have a conversation with. His name is Andrew Wingreen. He is the head men's basketball coach at the New College of Florida. He has over 15 years of coaching experience at NAIA and NCAA levels. He is the creator of the Win 1-1 framework, which we're going to hear all about. He's known for building culture, mindset, and momentum on his teams. A dynamic speaker on leadership, resiliency, and consistency. He has actually launched 2 athletic programs from scratch. He's faith-driven, strong character, and focused on helping lead others through adversity and win battles daily. Please join me in welcoming the head coach at New College of Florida, Andrew Wingreen.
Keep shining, be a light. You were made to be a lighthouse, shine bright. Keep shining, be a light.
Andrew and I have known each other for a number of years, and he is an individual that I would say shines brightly on a regular basis. Now, that shining hasn't come without some challenges and some ups and downs, and you've developed, I think it's kind of fun because you've developed as a coach, it shouldn't be surprising to us, he's developed a discipline around how to keep shining, how to keep winning, how to keep leading. Talk to us a little bit about your family and who you are. A lot of people out there won't know.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Really excited for what you're going to do with this, and I know you're going to impact a lot of people through it. But yeah, my family, my wife Julie, we've been married for going on 15 years in December, and have 2 little girls, 10 and 12, and there's a joy to be around. Lots of energy, both very different in what they like, what they do, but absolutely love being a dad, love being a husband, and being around people like you who have helped be an example and be a shining light for what that looks like. Has been great. So that's a little bit about my family, and like you said, just the head men's basketball coach at New College of Florida and going into year 3. So a lot of excitement around that program as well.
Tell me about the program a little bit.
Yeah, so we started athletics at the school 2 years ago. The school has been there for.
So you were the first. You were the first coach.
Yeah. Yep. First coach, and a lot of excitement with that. Obviously, getting to build your culture and lay a foundation that you want, but at the same time, as you know, it's like starting up a business. There's just so many hurdles, and it was just a whirlwind trying to figure everything out. And nobody at the school had done athletics before, and so it wasn't just building a basketball program. It was how do we set this entire athletic program up to be successful? So I had to do a lot of wear a lot of hats through that process, and we're 2 years in, going into year 3, and there's still a lot of moving parts and trying to grow and build. But yeah, it's been a great journey so far, and enjoy being here at New College.
So this isn't your first coaching assignment, is it?
No, it's not. I've been coaching for over 15 years now. Started out as an assistant at a few schools, and most recently, before coming to New College, I was an assistant coach at Stetson University up in DeLand, Florida. And so I've been around a lot of great coaches, great leaders. My last stop at Stetson, got to work with my head coach Donnie Jones, who won 2 national championships with the Florida Gators, and one of our assistants, Brendan Sir, He won 2 world championships with the Detroit Pistons back when in the 80s when they had the Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer and all those guys. So I've been around some great people and some great leaders. So it's been fun to learn and take things from them on what success looks like. And they say success leaves clues. So just been trying to pick up on those clues and implement them in my own journey.
Interesting. So let's take a step back, a few years back, maybe. What is it? When did you know you wanted to be a coach? And what drove you into coaching? But more importantly, what drove you into leadership?
Yeah, I think, growing up, I had a lot of aunts and uncles who were in basketball coaching, and I was all on my mom's side of the family. So I grew up just going to their games, being around the program. Every single holiday party we had, we had basketball on the TV, and I loved playing it. So I think there was always an interest, even growing up, but I always wanted to play. I didn't want to coach. But I also have a heart disease. And so when I got into like 8th grade, into my freshman year of high school, my heart started having a lot of issues. And long story short, had to have 3 open heart surgeries, had a pacemaker implanted, and wasn't ever cleared to play basketball in college. So with that, had a lot of bitterness, a lot of just different feelings about what that looked like. But God put two coaches in my life who really showed me how I could lead and how I could impact people through coaching. And I think that's when that fire and that passion really started to burn in my heart, that, hey, this is what I want to do. And I feel like this is what God has called me to do. And obviously through that, through that adventure of coaching, I learned what leadership looks like. And, it's more than winning. It's more than the scoreboard. It's truly, the impact we have on people, and, multiplying other leaders going forward. So, we can expound on that story a lot, but that's kind of where that love came from and how I got into it.
It's interesting because, ultimately, you and I are men of faith. Ultimately, we believe that, God's put challenges and sometimes roadblocks in our way because he sees something bigger, something better, something brighter for us. And you haven't let those challenges dissuade you at all. So I think that's pretty darn exciting. I actually happen to have, a relationship with Coach Dungy, and who goes to our church here in Tampa. And the interesting thing there is that the players that have played for him for a number of years, old Tampa Bay Buck players, Indianapolis Colts players, they talk less about winning games than they do the impact he had on their lives. And I know you, Andrew, and I see that in you. And so talk to me a little bit about the balance between, because you sort of mentioned it, the balance between, winning games, but really impacting these young men's lives.
Yeah, I think it's a hard balance to find for a lot of people. And I think even for me, just going
Hmm.
through as a young coach, there is so much emphasis on winning and so much emphasis on the outcome. And don't get me wrong, that stuff's important, right? The
Absolutely.
competition. That's why we do what we do, and we want to
Yeah.
go we want
That's
to
why
go
we
get
keep
the
score. That's why we keep
yeah,
score, right?
exactly. And so
Okay.
there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that, it's even a biblical thing that God wants us to run the race, so we're going to win. Like he wants us to give our best effort and give everything we have. And so I think that there's a lot of, good things about the scoreboard and the winning, but I also think there's more to it. And so it's not that it's a bad thing, but we have to build on that. And I think, like you referenced Tony Dungy, he was able to win a lot of games and a lot of championships, but he did that by winning people and by impacting people. And so for me, when I look at, the success and the outcome of the scoreboard, which is what most people look at alone, I think it's a byproduct of what we did in the hearts of the people we coach. So my job as a coach is to, to grow these men as leaders, to give them the principles and the characteristics to, someday be better husbands, be better dads, be better businessmen. And I think when they develop those leadership skills, it translates to the basketball court or to whatever field you're playing in. And that's when those scoreboard wins come. And I think that's really the power of what a good coach is. And I'm nowhere near perfect, but I've had people in my life who have shown me how it can be more and deeper than just the outcome on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought about this before, but it just jumps out at me right away. Having played, I wasn't playing basketball for obvious reasons, but having played hockey for a number of years, and as I thought about, being a better, how does being a better version of myself make me a better hockey player? It's about part of it is about humility. I mean, selfish players, and I was thinking back. to my hockey days. A selfish player, they never passed the puck. They ended up getting caught up the ice. They didn't care about their teammates as much. And it wasn't until you have a team of unselfish players, players willing to play as a team, uh, number twos willing to be number two, that you actually get the cohesiveness, right, to have a good team. I wonder, does that come into play at all on your basketball team?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, we talk about three core values in our program, and those values are love, serve, compete. And so I think, we strive to love each other as teammates, love others around us, because I think love is the foundation for everything we do. And, it's not always that romantic kind of love, but it's just being there for each other, picking your brother up when they fall down. The serve aspect, like serve the people around us. It could be something as simple as saying thank you, holding a door for somebody. Just these simple acts of service, I think, scream volumes to the people around us and make an impact. But also, it translates to the basketball court by, when you do your job, whether it's an assignment on defense or, working hard, you're serving your teammates. And so, how can we serve each other by doing our job? And then that last aspect is compete. And obviously there's an aspect of competing against each other and, you're striving for those wins. But we talk a lot in our program about competing for each other, to call each other up, to level each other up. So, when I can get my teammate here, he's going to push me to be here, and then I got to get here. And it's just this constant competing for each other and trying to make the guys around me better. So yeah, I think love, serve, compete, those things resonate with, that unselfishness, that humility, and just being the ultimate teammate.
When I was thinking about talking to you, I said earlier on in the recording that as a coach, discipline is so important, and instilling this. I mean, it's one thing to be disciplined, but it's another to instill discipline. And so, as I think about you, and knowing you and Julie well, knowing some of the challenges you've overcome, it didn't surprise me at all that you had come up with a strategy, a discipline, to keep doing what you need to do to win, to lead. So, talk to me a little bit about Win 1 1.
Yeah. So Win 1-1, it's, as I talk through it, a lot of people will kind of be like, oh, I know those traits. I've heard those leadership, characteristics talked about before, but it basically is boiled down to this, that if you can win every moment, one day at a time, at the end of the day, you'll look back and you'll have won. And it kind of stemmed from, we had a pregame speech. We were up in coastal Georgia. It was a conference game this past season. And it's things we've talked about a lot in our program, but for some reason, I think God just put this on my heart that, hey, I wrote up on the board, win, right? And it was just, hey, we're gonna win every play. Every single time we go out there, every possession, we're gonna win it. And we're gonna do that one possession at a time. And so I wrote the word one, like the number one, and talked through that with the guys, and then I wrote WON at the end, and I just said, guys, if we do this and we win every play, every possession, and we do it one at a time together, we're going to win this game. Like, we'll have won at the end of the day. And ever since I kind of had that pregame talk, I think it was something God was really putting in my heart, not only from a basketball perspective, but even just in life. It was, how can I attack every single day with this enthusiasm that, is bigger than myself? And, success is boiled down to a lot of small moments. One of my favorite quotes that I always hear is, little by little, little becomes a lot. And it's just winning those little things. So when it comes to discipline, in this philosophy, we talk a lot about having the winner's approach, showing up the right way. We talk about developing championship habits, building systems around those habits, next play mentality. Just when things don't go our way, how can we respond, not react to those situations? And then stacking wins and ultimately, leading to a life of significance.
Over the past couple of months, we've talked a little bit at the Lighthouse Collective about the fact that a lighthouse doesn't light up the entire ocean. It lights up a path. Once again, as men of faith, we follow that scripture verse that says, "Thy word's a lamp unto my feet," not lighting up the entire journey and destination, but a light to pathways, like a lighthouse, lighting the way to safety, not necessarily lighting up the whole ocean. And that's difficult sometimes because we want the whole picture. And as coaches and leaders, as lighthouses, we have to get to the point where we we instill confidence in people that we've got their back and that we're going to take them one step at a time. There's no way to be successful or significant, in my opinion, unless you break it down and block it out. And so that discipline's interesting. I just learned a new one in the past 3 or 4 months, and whether you're a believer or not is irrelevant. But I close off. I learned this from a good friend, a new friend. I close off every night with the prayer, are you proud of me today? Did I do okay? And it causes me to look back on the day and go, okay, where did I trip? Where did I fall? How do I fix it? How do I be better tomorrow? So it's really about being better versions of ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, we talk so much about just reflecting on that day, because I think you can go through a day and we can say, "Hey, I lived every moment," or I shed some light on this, but if we don't truly look back and see, where our wins, where our losses, where we need to get better, we don't reflect on that, we don't pray through that and really hear from God of how we can improve. Sometimes not say it's a total lost cause, but we're not getting as good as we could be. And I love that analogy of the lighthouse, because that is like kind of the heartbeat behind this is, as leaders, and I know as a coach, we have these visions and we see where we want to be, right? Like at the end of the day, we want to win a championship, or we want to have X amount of sales, or we want our business to grow this much. But really being able to take those complex visions and really simplify them into those little things, the steps that it takes to get there. And I think that's the power of being a lighthouse, is just showing what's next, right? Like a man plans his ways, but God establishes his steps. So I love that analogy.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a bit with that thought in mind. What are the 2 or 3 habits or systems that keep you as a coach grounded in leadership?
Yeah, I think the first thing that it's been so relevant in my life over the last 2 years, and even just in the last probably 7 or 8 months, but it's this listening prayer. And I know you have, Jamie Winship came and spoke at the Lighthouse Collective event, and just the idea of that listening prayer that he talks about. God, what do you want me to know about this situation, and what do you want me to do? And I think that's just a system that I've had to develop. Like, okay, I'm gonna have a listening prayer. I want to write down what God is speaking to me with, and that's something I try and do every single day, because without that foundation of the wisdom that God's pouring into me, I'm nothing. And so that's a system I've definitely tried to put into place, and a habit that I've tried to instill. And then I think just, the idea of showing up, how important it is just to show up, not just be in the room, but
Right.
be intentional with
Present.
what you're, yeah, being intentional and bringing the right attitude, bringing the right effort, and having, an energy that elevates everyone around you. So those are two things. And, I've just tried to always, before I walk into a room, like, okay, I'm having a rough day today. I don't want to come in and just exude all this negativity. So how can I just shift my focus? And I try and have these, these little discussions with myself before I walk in, and say, okay, what kind of light do you want to shine today? What person do you want to be, and how do you want to elevate the energy in the room? So those are a couple habits I've tried to instill, not only with myself, but, with our coaches and our team here at New College.
I want to dig in a little bit on the last part, because because we've talked about it, but I'm in the process of writing my own book called "How to Keep Shining When the World Seems Cloudy in a Cloudy World." And so I wanted to ask you, and it sort of touches on the last part of what you said. How do you bounce back? How do when things don't go as planned? I mean, as a coach, and we keep score, what happens when you have a run of three losing games? What happens in your own life when things aren't going quite as well as you wanted them to? What disciplines, what things do you do to bounce back?
Yeah, I think this is always a hard thing for me, because I'm a very negative person by nature. And so I have to fight for, responding the right way. And I think that word response has been one that just resonates with me, because when things get bad, and this can be in a basketball game, in a hockey game, or just in life, that when adversity hits and things get bad, we as humans are naturally wired to react. Like, we react with emotion. We have these emotions that aren't always in our control. And a lot of times that's when people snap and they say something they regret. And I think for me, understanding not if bad things will happen, but when will they happen? Like, kind of expecting things to go awry at some point. And, when they do, we have an intentional response. Like, we know it's going to happen. So don't let your reactions, dictate what you do next. Just reset quickly and then respond, because I think responses, unlike reactions, they're intentional, they're in our control, and it's something that we've premeditated and prepared to do. So I know in a basketball game, when my guys turn the ball over 3 times and we give up 2 dunks on the other end, I could start cussing at them and just go crazy and make everyone around me uncomfortable. Or I can say, you know what, like, I know this situation can happen. I can call a timeout. We have words we can talk about on the bench. We have different things to regroup our focus, but we're intentional with our response, and we're not just going to allow our reactions to dictate, what we do next.
I love that. I hadn't heard that before. The difference between a reaction and a response, super important. Really, really good. So you are a coach. You're on the sidelines. You've got a great player. Obviously, all your players are great because you handpick them. But one of them's struggling. It's you can see, and it is. The thing with athletics, in my opinion, if people are already pretty good, are pretty good athletes, are pretty good at what they do, they wouldn't compete at the levels that they do unless they were. Typically, when something's going wrong on a repeated basis, it's up here. And so if you're looking at the court and one of your players seems to be struggling, how do you deal with that? How do you get inside their head and help them change?
Yeah, I think, everyone's kind of wired differently. And so I think every situation calls for maybe a little different demeanor of how you approach it. Some guys need the hug, the arm around them. Some guys need you to get into them a little bit more. But I think at the root of all of this, it comes down to identity. And so I always try and, like, I hope the guys know I love them. They know I care for them. So however I approach the situation, it's out of love and that I want to see them get better. But I always try and bring them back to who they are. And it's more than basketball. Like, you're more than putting a round ball in a basket. You're more than scoring 20 points a game. You're more than winning this game. Like, and we're at a state university, so I can't just straight up start talking about God all the time, but the guys know where I stand, and we do talk about our faith a lot in our program. And I just try and remind them, like, ultimately you're a child of God. God loves you. I love you. And so even though you're not playing very well, or you just missed a game-winning shot, or, stuff's happening off the floor, like, let's get back to this identity and understand who you are, because when you act out of your identity, good things happen. But a lot of times, and this is what happens, with we get into our feelings. So made the mistake, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm tired, and I let those feelings dictate my actions. But we try and flip that, turn it backwards, and say, hey, like, you are better than that. Like, you're more than this. So act from that identity and understand, like, this is who you are, and don't let this stuff that's happening off the floor, or these things that don't really matter, affect what you do.
That's great. That's great. Well, I want to end every one of these encounters with an interesting question. This is about lighthouses, and I would love to ask you, who in your life was a major light, and how did they impact you? And I ask you that because, as much as I want these podcasts to be used for people to get help, to help them out, to help them be better versions of themselves, it's even more important once they get there, that they are that to other people. So we would love to hear who is that light in your life. There's probably multiple, but pick one, and how did they impact you?
Yeah, man, there are so many, and I could go on and on about several people in my life, but I think one that's been kind of resonating with me lately, and it's one of those coaches from college that, I told you, kind of helped me see a different perspective. But as there's just been different curveballs thrown at us lately, and just trying to navigate life, navigate what we want to do. I haven't even really talked to this guy, but the words that he spoke to me even 15, 20 years ago, they just still stick with me. And it's make sure God stays first, like, glorify him in everything that you do, because aside from that, nothing else really matters. And I think when, for me, I'm always like, what do I need to do? How can I fix this? What can I do to make the situation better? Instead of just leaning on God and knowing that the story's already written. He has a plan. He's sovereign. And another quote that my coach used to tell me is, do you believe in God? And he said, if you do, he's either sovereign or he's not. Like, you got to pick one. Do you believe that he's sovereign? Do you believe that he's in control or not? Because if you don't, then none of this matters. But, you know, for me, it was like, no, I do. Like, I trust in God. I want to put my faith in that. And so I'm going to keep shining and keep pushing, putting one foot in front of the other. And so a lot of those words have been resonating with me, you know, even in the last few months here.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. That is super important. I remember being really down in my 20s when something awful happened, and a mentor of mine at the time said, "Well, as far as I know, God's still on his throne. So just relax." I want to try another tradition, and that is, even though you don't know who the next guest is, I would like you to ask them a question. And then when you tune in, you'll hear what their answer is. What would you love to hear? You know, everybody who's going to be on these podcasts is a leader in one way or another. Is significant because you know, they're significant to a group of people. They have a circle of influence. So I want to ask you, what question do you want to ask them, and that you think will be impactful?
Yeah, I think that is a tough one. You're going to put a lot of people on the spot with this tradition, but I like it. I think for me, going through leadership right now, I'm trying to figure out how do you delegate tasks and take things off of your plate, but at the same time, you don't surrender the essential things like relationships, connection, communication. You know, so I would just ask, like, how do you balance that, like the ability to delegate, but also make sure that you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing and not delegating the wrong things.
That's a great question. Well, Andrew, best of luck to the Mighty Banyans. When does the season start?
So we'll start practices beginning of September, and then our season will officially begin right at the beginning of November. So excited to have a good season and excited to be back with the guys.
Are you back in your home court?
Yeah, so we do rent out a facility, but yes, we're back there. Last year the hurricanes knocked us out and we were all over the place. So hopefully we'll have some more stability this year. Praying that no major hurricanes come through our area again. So
yeah, well, I happen to know that I'm going to be around there quite a bit, and can't wait to get to a game. Thank you, and thank you to all of you for listening. Keep shining and be a light.
Keep shining.